Hello students, in this lesson we're finally going to go over the Austrian attack. We're going to learn how to play the Pirc defense against the Austrian attack. And I left this for last because I wanted you to really be invested, to be committed with this opening by the time we got here. If I had shown this at the beginning, maybe you have gotten overwhelmed. So I really wanted you to learn how to play against the classical, the 150 attack, and only now we're going to talk about the Austrian attack. Now, this line, guys, it's not like the others. We're going to have to memorize a little bit more. We're going to have to know a little bit of theory, and that's fine. I'm going to show you what I play online, what I play in tournaments, and I'm going to help you be ready to play it by the time you finish this lesson. But let's go over a few things before we actually start. Number one, if you look here on the right, guys, you're going to see this piece of information, which is going to help you not only to understand this lesson, but you should keep it in order to be able to prepare this opening or this variation the right way. And we're going to talk about it more a little bit later. Now, you could find this on the community tab on my channel. So if you go to my channel and you go to the community tab, you're going to see that I post things there. I put puzzles and things for you guys to practice more and interact. So feel free to check it out from time to time. And also, if you want this information, you could go there and you're going to find it. I actually posted it yesterday, so some of you might have it. But just know that from time to time, I'm posting things over there. Now, with that said, let's start talking about the Austrian attack. And we're going to do it a little bit different. I'm going to first go here to chess.com. And I'm going to show you again that I played online. This was a blitz game. And I'm only going to show it to you quickly. And it's going to be only the opening part for you to see the power of knowing the theory and knowing what you're doing. So I'm playing this person. He's doing d4. Knight c3, and finally he gets to the Austrian attack. I go bishop g7, and now here they could do a few things, but we're going to talk about it later. In this game he chose to do the main line, which is knight f3, and here, guys, you could continue in different ways. Again, we're going to talk about it later, but in this game I decided to do pawn to c5. This is a move that I've never talked about it in the other variations of the Pirc because I don't really like it that much in other variations. Now here, I find it very useful because don't forget that whenever we play against this kind of centers, guys, if we play the Pirc defense, the King's Indian defense, you know that our job is to make this center unstable. And a move like c5 is actually helping us do that. So after c5, he took, and now we have this move, queen a5. We're going to talk more in detail about this variation, but taking on c5 doesn't make sense. So we do queen a5, and now we're pinning the knight. We know this idea from the Czech Pirc, and we're trying to take on e4. By then, this is even more powerful than in the Czech Pirc because we also have the bishop ready to take on c3. So after queen a5, this gives us enough time to pick up the pawn with the queen. Bishop d3, main line, guys, all of this is theory. Like, it's written on the chess encyclopedia, on the book, everyone knows this. It's there for everyone to access it. So after queen c5, queen e2, they need to kick me out of this diagonal. I castled. Now, queen e3, this is the part that I wanted to show you guys. I always did queen a5 at this point of the game, but there's also this move, which is queen b4, and that's exactly what I did here. Now, I'll never do this in a tournament game because it could get a little bit tricky. I do it online on Blitz because my opponents, I know they don't have much time, they're not going to really pay attention, and the problem with this move is that I'm hitting b2, and the two most natural moves, they're actually a mistake. So if you castle queenside to protect the pawn, if you go rook b1 to protect the pawn, you run into a trick. And that's exactly what happened here. So my opponent went castle, and now I challenge you guys to pause the video and see if you can come up with that trick. Well, the move is actually knight takes e4. So I went for it. This is something that, again, I knew from before. It's automatic, but it's not so easy to see it coming if you're not familiar with this opening with the theory. So after I take, it's very easy. If they take with the knight, then I have bishop takes b2, king b1, and then I just remove my bishop with a discover check followed by checkmate. If they do instead what they did, which was bishop takes, I'm going to take the knight, and now the bishop is hanging. So not only do I get a free pawn, now this king is going to be completely exposed, the pawn structure is messed up, I'm going to develop my bishop to e6, to f5, then I have a semi-open file for my rook, and it's going to be very easy for us to play this game. Now, I'm showing you this game, guys, for you to see the power of knowing the theory, of knowing the ideas, and also for you to see that I actually played this. Now, let's go back to talk about the theory. And here we are. By the way, I hope that you actually had the time to go over lesson number 72, where we learned how to store all of this information. So everything that you're going to learn today, you could just reproduce it, save it, and access it whenever you need it, to memorize it or simply to brush up on it before a tournament. So if you haven't, take a look at that lesson, and it's going to be easier for you to actually learn everything and store it. With that said, let me go all the way back here, and let's talk about knight f6, knight c3, g6, and f4. Let's talk about the Austrian attack. So guys, f4, our move is going to be bishop g7, but now, if you look at this information that we have on the right, you're going to see that the white pieces could do knight f3, which is what you already saw, this is the main line. They could do bishop d3, which is not a big deal, and they could do e5. Now, this is the move that most people are concerned with, but you're going to soon find out that the white pieces have to really time it to actually get something with it. Otherwise, it's just not going to be good at all. So e5 is a line that we're going to go over, and of course knight f3. Now, the best tip that I can give you guys to get to understand this better is to play this as the white pieces. If you already play e4 and someone plays the Pirc, well, try to use the Austrian attack, and you're going to see it's not that easy to get an advantage with it. Of course, if the black pieces know what they're doing. So let's go over e5 first. As you see here on this document, I did not put a lot of information, guys, because I'm expecting you to do the research. So I'm going to explain it now, but I didn't put it down. If you want, you could go back to this video, or you could do the research like you learned in lesson number 72. And this is what I do with my students. They're supposed to do the research, pick up the lines that they like, and then we go over them and make sure that we go over any questions they have. So here, after e5, there are two variations, as you can see. I put d takes e5, and I also put there, you can read that knight f to d7 is a good move. So you could look into both of them and then pick the one that you like the most. I'm going to recommend for now d takes e5. I think it's more natural to you. You're going to remember it better. But again, I myself do both. Sometimes I use one or the other. If I'm playing online, I'm going to use the one that I typically don't play in tournaments. And that's something for you to keep in mind. By learning all of these different lines, not only do you learn more about the opening and about chess, but you have a line to surprise your opponents and to make sure that they don't prepare for you in tournaments. So anyways, after d takes e5, they could take with the f pawn and with the d pawn. If they take with the f pawn, then you're going to go knight d5. Again, guys, if you look here on the right, you're not going to see any of this on this document, but you can fill it out on your own after. So after knight d5, our queen is supporting the knight. If they take, well, we're just going to take back. Our queen is centralized. They don't have this knight to come to c3 and hit the queen, so we are fine there. If they did something like c4, well, that's a pretty bad move. Now I could do queen e4, and if they did something like bishop e2, we pick up on g2. If they do something like knight e2, then we have pawn to c5. And a move like this, guys, is going to destroy this perfect center that they have. If they just take, well, I take this pawn, and then I'm hitting here. Very easy to play for the black pieces. Of course, if they do pawn to d5, I take on e5 as well. So c5 is enough to make it unstable. Now, let's say that, again, let me go back. Let's say that after bishop g7, they do e5, not recommended, but if they did it, we take, f takes, knight d5. Let's say that instead of taking, guys, they do knight e4. This is a better approach, but then here you could easily castle and you're gonna be fine, or you could do knight b4. When I play this variation, I like to do knight b4, because now if they made a mistake like this, you have this move. Queen takes c4, and if they take the queen, then you have knight c2 and you get it back. And I think you saw this in one of my games, a tactic like this. So anyways, let me go back. The other thing they could do is, after knight b4, they could do c3, but then you have bishop f5, and if the knight moves, then knight c2, and you're hitting the rook. So this is more or less what you have to remember, guys, the ideas that you have to understand, but that's if they do f takes e5. Now, if they did d takes e5, the d file opens, so we're going to take, And now, if they take with the knight, we're just going to go knight to the center, we're going to be fine. If they take with the king, then we're just going to do knight f to d7. You see this pattern, guys? On the Austrian attack, you're going to see the black pieces bringing this knight to d7 a lot. Now, if you're thinking of knight g4, well, it's not that big a deal. They could easily go back, protect f2, and then they're going to be the ones putting pressure on c7. So I really recommend just doing knight f to d7. They could do now knight d5, and you're going to be doing king to d8, protecting this pawn. Now guys, I know this looks extremely weird. It's like, what am I doing? Why am I moving my king? Why can't I castle? Well, one thing that I can say, this is, remember, proven. This is the theory. It's proven to be the best way to continue. But on top of that, it's really cool to play these positions. Like, this is something that is not standard for you. And trust me, you're going to learn a lot by going over this. So after king d8, maybe if they go something like knight f3, all you have to do is kick the knight out. And then if this is bothering you, just go f3, f6, I'm sorry, and you're going to again get rid of that center. And then your king could go to c7, and you're going to be fine. Guys, the kings are fine. There are no queens on the board. There's no attack. And this is looking more like an end game soon. So we're going to be ready to go towards the center and help with the king. So let me go back. And that covers, guys, if you look to the right again, the first line, instead of knight f3, if they had done e5. Now, guys, if you use what we went over on lesson number 72 to look deeper into the theory, you're welcome to do that. Expand on these lines, write them down, whatever you like, and then review games. If you were able to get a book on the Pirc defense, then look at the games that they show there, look at the comments that the author is providing for you. Now, we already went over e5. If they go knight f3, then here you have to make a choice. Now, you saw what I typically do, which is pawn to c5, and I'm going to recommend this one. We're going to focus on this variation. This is what I play. Now, I wanted to take a moment here, guys, and I don't mean to be offensive, but this is really important. You have to know what level you are at. If you are a 1200 player, you know that your opponents are going to be 1200 players or around that level. Well, at this level, you guys are not experienced enough to know so much theory. Like, it's hard to find someone who is 1200 or less and knows so much theory. So I'm saying this because a 1200 player that is playing with the white pieces, they might know a little bit of theory about the openings that they could play against e4, but they're not going to know all of this information that you're seeing here on the right. And maybe they know up to this point knight f3, but they don't really know that much. So I'm saying this because you don't have to go into c5 if you don't feel like it. If you just want to get started with the Pirc, you want to have something to play against the Austrian attack, well, you could look into moves like even c6. And I have had students that this is the case. They're just getting started with the opening. I just want them to play chess, so we don't really care too much about the theory. I just tell them, you know what, do c6. By the way, this is a line that is proven to be a little bit inferior for black. It could be a little bit uncomfortable, but hey, if you make it out of the opening, you're going to be fine. Unless you're playing someone strong, they're not going to give you a hard time. So what is the idea here? Well, many people are concerned with the move e5. If they do e5, I take. If they take, now here my knight is going to go to d5 because I have enough support. So if they take here, I could take back with my pawn. I have full control of the center, and I'm fine. So that c6 is just to bring more support to d5 whenever they do e5. Again, if they had taken over here, same thing. I could go to d5 and I'm fine. I have enough support. Okay, so this is something for you guys keep in mind. Maybe you just want to do c6, and in the meantime, you prepare something more advanced, but you don't have to be like, oh, I cannot play this until I learn all of the theory. You don't have to. And to be honest, all of the theory, it is recommended that you prepare it the right way, but you could just start getting experience without memorizing all of this. Just get the main ideas, play, and you build it as you go. So anyway, c6 is a possibility, but I'm going to recommend c5. If you have the time, you should go over castling. I'm not recommending castling, guys, because there's so many things the white pieces could do. They could do a3, they could do pawn to e5, they could do bishop to d3, bishop to e3, and there's so much that you have to memorize. So instead, go for c5. It doesn't mean that c5 doesn't require theory and memorization, but not as much as castling. So let me go back and let's go over c5. Now, once you do c5, and if you look again on the right, guys, I don't want you to get confused by this. I know it looks confusing, but let's try to do the best to understand it. So if you look to the right here, after move number 5, knight f3, so everything that is bold is going to be the main line. So you see on move number 5, knight f3, but you could see that they have a variation which is pawn e5. Now, if we go down here, you're going to see that c5 main line, they could do d takes e5. Anything that you see in blue is a move that has an alternative or another variation. So here they could do d takes e5. If you look down, you can see that they could also do bishop b5. They could do pawn to d5, and they could do pawn to e5. So this is these are the moves that if you prepare this at home, you have to make sure that you have something, you have a line for this. I'm not providing a lot on this because I'm expecting you to do the research, and to be honest, you could just start playing this by knowing the main line. Just give it a try, especially if you're playing just for fun online. Just get some experience with it. So after c5, we're going to start with this move, which is d takes e5. Again, like we talked about before, all you have to do is queen a5, and you're seeing it here on the right. After queen a5, the main line is to do bishop d3. They don't want us to take on e4 and put pressure on c3. Remember, we're pinning it, we're activating this bishop as well, so that's the last thing they want. Now, I'm putting here for you to see that they could also do, that c takes e6 is bad, so I'm just putting it here for you to know that and be okay with it. Because many people, I tell them this and they're like, yeah, really, prove it. Well, this is the proof. Just after they take, you could take on e4. If they take again, you take, then take. Here, the best thing to do for the white pieces is to move out. They're threatening checkmate, so forget about that rook. But after knight c6, guys, you're protecting, you're putting more pressure on the pawn, still hitting the rook. You have to be better here as the black pieces. So let me go back. And again, all the way back. So they did here, instead of e5, knight f3, c5, if they take, queen a5, and now bishop d3 is the top move. Now, these other lines that you see down here, queen d3, queen d4, even bishop b5 right now, these are lines, guys, that they could be played, and you should at least look at them and get familiarized with them. But in my experience, not many people do them. I think I got queen d3 in a serious game one time. Online, I get queen d4 sometimes. But again, for a long time in my career, I didn't know this theory very well. I just played it, and I was fine. But I really recommend that you go into them. So again, I'm just putting this here because when you do the research on your own, these are lines that you cannot ignore. You have to review them. So anyways, you know what to do if they take. Now we're going to go over bishop d3, which is the main line. So we're going to pick up the pawn, and now they need me away from this diagonal to be able to castle. So queen e2 happens, and here, guys, if I'm playing blitz online, I'm going to castle, and after I castle, then they're gonna go bishop e3. This is what you saw in that game. Typically, what I did for a long time was just queen a5 and just play it quiet. They're gonna castle. You're going to do something like bishop g4, knight c6, and this is already move number 10, so you're gonna be fine. Now, if I'm playing online, I'm playing blitz, queen b4, and you know the trick. I'm hitting b2. They have to, if they castle or they go rook b1, you have knight takes e4. Now, the reason why I don't play this is because the right move for the white pieces, guys, is to castle. And now my queen is a little bit weird here. I don't really have my pieces developed, and they're going to put a lot of pressure on me. Taking the pawn, forget about it, because after knight b5, the queen is about to get trapped. And even if you don't get trapped, you lose a lot of moves, a lot of tempos just trying to get out of it. So I just don't take it. So when I play blitz and they castle, I get a game a little bit uncomfortable. So I would never do this in a real game. So you could look into this. You could just do queen a5 like I used to do. But the line that I'm going to recommend, and I'm going to go back, and you could see it, guys, again, here on the right, you're going to see that after c5, d takes e5, queen a5, bishop d3, then you're going to see that after I take and they go queen e2, the move that I have there, it's bold. The main line is going to be bishop g4. Why? Because if you don't do bishop g4 right now, they might do h3 before, and then your bishop never comes here. And I found that it's extremely important to get rid of this. That's going to allow us to play on these squares. So you could get something like bishop e3, of course. Then your queen goes back to a5. Forget about b4. They castle. Then we castle. So you basically get the same thing as before, but you made sure that the bishop is going to be there. They cannot prevent it with h3. Now, if they do h3 right now, you take, queen takes, and now after knight c6, this is move number 12, you are very comfortable. So you could do something like e6, bring the rook to the c file, and again, you're going to be fine. So, and again, guys, you can always look at games played with this variation. I showed you last lesson how to do that, so that's more information for you. So let me go back. This is the main line when they take on c5. Now, again here, we got the Austrian attack. They just did knight f3. I did c5. And we already know what to do if they go d takes e5. Now, if you look down here, you see that instead of doing d takes e5, they could do bishop e5. Now, guys, this is the line that could be really uncomfortable. Now, this is the line that I get it pretty often. I have to be honest, before I didn't get it that much, but as you get stronger, you play stronger opponents, and they're going to know these lines. They're really tricky, and if you make a mistake, you're going to get in trouble. Now, many of you, maybe you've been playing the Pirc already, and you haven't gotten the Austrian attack that much, and if you get it, they don't go into these weird lines. Fine, but you still have to know it just in case. And again, guys, no one is going to know this better than you do, because you're going to get this almost every time. Like, you're going to get this often. Whoever's playing with the white pieces, it's not that common to have someone who plays the Pirc and someone who plays c5 within the Pirc against the Austrian attack. So if you just know a little bit of theory, you're going to know more than many of your opponents. So anyways, after bishop e5, again, they chose to do bishop e5. We're going to do bishop d7. And then, as you can see here on the right, the white pieces could do bishop d7. That's the main line. You see it there, blue. And that blue means they're alternatives. You have to learn what to do if they take. You have to learn what to do if they push on e5. Now, this e5 is the complicated one. So you have to know what to do here. But let's go over bishop takes e7. Now, if they do bishop takes e7, as you can see here, this knight is customary to see it coming to d7. So we take here, because that way e5 is not going to be so annoying. So if they take on d7, we take with the f knight, and then the main line goes something like d5. And then you're going to go b5. So I'm going to leave it here, as you can see, because guys, you could look at games played with this variation. Now, don't worry about that pawn being for free, because then you could do queen a5, fork, and even if they go back to c3, don't forget about this bishop. Okay, so I'm going to leave it here. Anything else is not complicated at all. If they just take here, you're going to be fine, right? So this is a very comfortable position. So this is, again, guys, if they take on b5. So at this point, we're going to do something that maybe you don't like, but we're going to go all the way back. And e4, d6. Remember, this repetition, guys, is going to help you really get the hang of this. So g6, they played the Austrian, bishop g7. If e5, we learned that d takes is what I recommend for you guys, but you could look into knight f to d7. If they do knight f3, I'm going to do c5. If they take, well, you know what to do, queen a5. If they do bishop b5, I block with my bishop. Now, we already know what to do if they take on d7, the knight is going to take. So if they do now e5, automatically this knight goes to g4. We're not going to take here, we're not going to do anything like that, just knight g4. Leave this as it is. Notice that when they start pushing, the center starts to turn weaker and weaker. So just remember to do knight g4. And again, you can see this here on the right. Now, the main move, guys, here next is e6. This is why this gets so complicated. Now, they could do also, as you can see here, they could do bishop d7. They could do, let me put this away. Okay, they could do h3. They could do knight to g5. Now, I didn't put anything on these variations because this is just for you guys to know that you cannot ignore this when you prepare yourself the way you learned in lesson number 72. I keep repeating the same thing, but this is just for you to know that these are lines you have to review, okay? Now, e6, I really want to go into it with you because it could be tricky. Now, whenever I'm playing online and they do e6, I'm going to go into this variation. You take, you're going to see what's going to happen now. But if I were playing in a tournament game, guys, I really like to do bishop takes b5. Now, I don't do it online that often. If I do it, it's just to practice, make sure that I don't remember it. But this is the line that I really have saved with all of my studies, my research, to play in tournaments. Now, here, this is a little bit tricky. They could take on f7, then you have to do king to d7. So that's another reason why I'm not even going into it with you now. Keep it simple. There's no point for you to memorize all of this if you're not going to get it that often. So just play something slower. Again, if you have the time, feel free to go over it. But I think you should really play f takes e6, and you're going to be fine with this. So again, let me go back. They put us in check, bishop d7, e5, the knight goes away, e6. We're going to take, again guys, this is all theory. Everything is written down, is overstudied, so this is what you have to know. So after f takes e6, we have knight g5, trying to take here. We're going to do bishop takes b5. If he didn't take us, well, we're going to take him. We cannot be pinned for too long. And then here, guys, this is the move. Knight e6, hitting the bishop, hitting the queen. Notice that there's an alternative. They could also do knight takes to b5, and you're going to look into it. But if they go knight e6, then here's the move, guys. Bishop d4. So we don't care if they take the queen, because then we have check, check, and this bishop is not letting them get away, so this is going to be a draw back and forth. Now, this is the reason why many people don't like this variation specifically, because you're open to getting a draw. So if you need to win this game, if you're playing a lower rated opponent, you don't want to get a draw. So why would you go into a line that is forced draw? Well, that's true, and that's also why I don't do it myself. Like I just do, when they do e6, I choose bishop takes b5. Now, I played this f takes e6 for a long time, and I never got into this variation. Typically, the person who plays as the white pieces chooses to play the Austrian attack. They're not looking for a draw, guys. So they know this as well. They're not going to go into the drawish line. So that's why you see here that after knight g5, and you take knight e6, they have this variation as well, which you have to go into yourself. Now, this is a line for you to have it if you want to play the Austrian attack, the Pirc, and you want something simple for the Austrian attack. Well, you could learn this theory, you're going to be fine. Unlikely that they're going to go for the draw, but they could. Now, if you're already playing more seriously, you want something that doesn't expose you to this, well, you have to do the research on this other line where you take on b5, okay? And guys, as you give me questions and you talk about it, and if I see that you need it, I'm going to do a lesson on this specific variation. But for now, just play the Pirc, have fun with it. It's very unlikely that you're gonna get all of this theory, and I already told you why. Anyways, this is the theory if they did bishop b5 and so on. Now, the other variation that I wanted to talk about, and let me make sure that I'm not missing anything. No, I don't think I'm missing anything. Now, the other one is if on move number 6, that means once we do c5, and you could see this at the bottom, this is the last line. So you have to look into d5 as well, not that tricky. Or what if they do e5? So look at this. You did c5, and then they're going to do e5. Now here, the same move that we've been talking about all this time. Knight f to d7, we leave this tension in the center, and then the white pieces could do a few things. They could do e takes d6, which is pretty common, and then if you have to go into this, I would recommend to do castling. This is the move. If they take on e7, you get a lot of initiative, you're going to be fine. Now, some people don't feel comfortable giving up the pawn, so that's okay. If they go here, then you could also do c takes to d4, okay? So this is another variation for you guys to look into. Now, going back here, you can see that they could also do e6, not that big a deal. They could do d takes e5, also pretty simple. They could do bishop c4. They could do knight to g5. Now guys, all of these lines are a little bit of the same thing. So when you review a few of them, you could even tell what to do in the other ones just by intuition. Like you've studied this so much and the patterns are almost the same thing. So you're going to get to the point that you're going to feel comfortable with it. Now, I know this is not like the other variations that I have given you something concrete, like play this and you're gonna be fine. But not even with my students that I teach privately, I do that, guys. I just, we go over the opening, whatever they pick. I explain the main ideas. Okay, you like it, this is your style, this is what you wanna play. Go ahead and study it. And then once they pick the lines that they like, we go more into detail. So you have to do the hard work, but also that hard work is going to help you learn chess in general. So don't feel this is just for nothing. Even if you end up playing another opening later, these ideas that you're going to learn here, you could use them in other openings and other positions and so on. Now, like always, leave me any questions you might have, guys. I'm more than happy to reply and explain. So with that said, guys, I'm going to leave it here and I'll talk to you in our next lesson.